Learn from an attorney how many victims get sucked into the vicious cycle of bullying in today's school systems and what, if anything, you can do to stop it. Kids, get your parents. They need to see this. Hi, I'm Stacey Storino, an attorney since 1998, certified life coach since 2015, and the leader in legal coaching that turns people into effective advocates for themselves and their loved ones when they're bullied, special needs, or both. Woman 101 stands for wisdom that turns victims into victors. Now, let's get to how victims of bullying get stuck in a vicious cycle where things only escalate and do not go away without victims and their families taking serious action, and how we can get victims and their families to take action. Stay tuned until the end of the video so that you can learn about a method to stop bullies after all else fails. Yep, there is a method. The vicious cycle begins far earlier than most people would like to think. It seems like not too many years ago that it used to be that high school was the real hotbed for bullying. And maybe middle school wasn't too bad, with elementary school being a time where pretty much everyone was cute and safe. Not anymore. The highest prevalence of bullying starts amongst elementary school age children, according to an article entitled Bullying, Psychological Adjustment, and Academic Performance in Elementary School in the Archives of Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine. So, if you're a kid watching this and people are telling you that you're too young to be a victim of bullying, that what's going on with you is really just horseplay and nothing meant to be hurtful, odds are the folks telling you that are wrong. Parents, if you're watching this and you just knew that your child was being bullied, but everyone's telling you that kids as young as kindergartners and first graders can't bully, they're wrong too. In fact, in a different study and corresponding article, groups of kindergartners and first grade students were observed and an incident of bullying occurred on the playground every 3 to 6 minutes. Seriously. A third study altogether has confirmed that younger students of both sexes are the most likely to be singled out as victims. What has been found is that children who struggle academically are more likely to be victims or be both victim and aggressor, also known as the bully victim. Initially, the vicious cycle starts not only when kids are young, but it kicks off as being more situational and less personal. That means that, especially when bullies are younger, they're less likely to start off targeting their victims because of personal reasons. Nope. And in fact, a bully can start out bullying several children at the same time, but only over time does the field of children who are consistently victimized become narrowed on the basis of ongoing experiences. So the kid who takes the bullying with little to no complaint, just because they're shy, lack proper coping skills, or both, that's the kid the bully will continue to pick on every single time. The victim of persistent and consistent school bullying, therefore, does tend to be a single person. Not always, but generally speaking. Multiple studies show that once a child is labeled a victim, their status within their corresponding peer group drops. So therefore, they tend to be shunned, socially ostracized by their peers, many of whom do it so the bullies don't concentrate on them either at all or depending upon the circumstances, anymore. Girls, especially, who are unable to develop supportive peer relationships, are at an increased risk for persistent and consistent ostracism and rejection, according to an article entitled Cross National Consistency in the Relationship Between Bullying Behaviors and Psychosocial Adjustment. Quote, youth who are victimized are likely to be marginalized from the mainstream peer group, lacking access to pro-social peers who provide role models of appropriate social skills and also protection against bullying, unquote. It's critical that victims are not left detached from the rest of the student body or marginalized, because the vicious cycle only continues, where they will remain marginalized and where the bullies will continue to torment them. And because many bullies, although not all of them, are popular and often otherwise successful students, faculty and staff might have a hard time imagining that they're capable of the brutality that the victims complain of. So the vicious cycle continues, with things escalating over time to physical violence if it hasn't started there to begin with, because the bully's need for titillation and thrill increases to the point where shunning or actively making fun of someone or both just isn't enough anymore. But let me be absolutely clear. There are things that can be done so that a bullied child can keep from being marginalized, where the vicious cycle stops and a proper support system can be put in place for them. Gaining a support system that exists both on the school campus and off of it can keep a bullied kid safer. And when all else fails, it's time to call in the cavalry, meaning having at least one adult who can serve as your advocate with the school system and, if need be, the police and the court system. You can't ignore bullying. It won't go away. Every study and survey shows that avoidance has no upside when it comes to bullying. And I've got a system called the Enemy Remedy that can help you or the ones you love out big time. So make sure you check out the link down below in this video show notes for more details. Remember, Woman 101 stands for wisdom, turning victims into victors. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video and share this with anyone you know who could use some support. Woman 101, be wise with your heart.